طبعا انت اعمل شير من عندك لو سمحت.
الآن
هو يريد العرض، يريد
اوكي. الدكتور ممكن تبدا الان دكتور محمد.
يس، انا بديت ناطر الاوثر ليعمل شيرنج للبرزنتيشن تاعته.
بس دكتور ياسر، يسعد صباحك دكتور. معلش
هو
موجود.
خلاص خليه يسوي برزنتيشن.
خلي لحظه شوي، لا لحظه خلي بس.
تفضل
دكتور لو سمحت دكتور.
نعم.
احنا عملنا بري ريكورد، يعني اوريدي انتم المفروض يكون عندكم الفيديوز اللي تعرضوها. يعني انا مثلا البرزنتيشن تاعي الثالث او الرابع، بس انا مش محضر على اساس انتم بدكم تعرضوا البري ريكورد.
اوكي، اعرض الريكوردينج. ما معك الريكوردينج؟ اعرضها من عندك.
بصراحه لا، هلا خليني طيب نجهزها. اوكي.
لا هو مش مفروض من عنده، مفروض من عند الاي تي. هسه الاي تي اللي كانوا يحكوا معاكم هذول هم اللي مفروض انهم يعني يحملوا التسجيل.
وين يحملوا التسجيل؟ طيب نحن ما
دكتور عذرا دكتور، التسجيل فقط في حاله ان تعذر على المشارك عرض مداخلته.
هذا هي متعذر عليه، هو دخلوه. يعني هو بقول لكم بطالب منكم كنت
خلاص يرسل لنا اسمه وان شاء الله الان بنستقلب الفيديو.
ما هو بعثناه كلياتنا، بعثنا بري ريكوردد من امبارح اول امبارح، فمفروض يكون عندكم.
فاهم يا دكتور، بس هو يقول لنا الان رقم فيديو رقم كم على اساس نجيبه هو.
ايه رقم واضح 166. انا بحكي عن
خلاص اوكي ان شاء الله. بس هو رقم 3 صحيح؟
لا رقم 1. شو رقم 3؟ اول واحد 166.
اوكي ان شاء الله الان بدي اعرضه.
بس عذرا، المفروض هو المدير التقني للسيشن هو اللي يعرض الريكوردينج برزنتيشن تبع الاوثر.
ايه مفروض، وبالتالي المفروض انه يحضر كل السيشن، الريكوردد سيشن يكون مجهزات، بحيث انه بس ينتهي شخص يكون الثاني جاهز. على الارجح انه المعظم، لانه جهزنا يعني التسجيلات من قبل.
ان شاء الله.
اوكي دكتور، واضح دكتور، بس اعطينا دقيقتين بس دكتور.
نعم يلا I'm waiting
دكتور.
yes I'm waiting.
اوكي
I'm waiting.
اوكي نو بروبلم. تكرم دقيقة دكتور بس.
ما في مشكلة.
وبجوز لو تعطي مجال لشخص موجود جاهز يعمل برزنتيشن حتى نكسب الوقت. يعني
دكتور انا ما عندي مشكله، هاي لقيت البرزنتيشن عندي. بتحب اعمل شير؟ ما بعمل شير، ما عندي مشكله الان.
نعم please if you have your presentation share it please اعملها share. The author of detecting date palm diseases using CNN, please share your presentation if you have it.
عملت شير دكتور، واضح عندك؟
لا يس واضح. يس واضح. يس فيك تشغلها؟
اوكي تمام.
شغلها.
لا بدي اشرح من جديد، بدك الريكورد اللي
بدك تشرح من جديد؟ اوكي لا اوكي بليز اتس جود جريت يلا يو كان بس اعمل لها سلايد فيو اكزاكتلي فيري جود.
Okay, my name is Muad Imad Al-Shalawat. I'm studying computer science at Zarqa University. My title, Detecting Date-Bound Diseases Using Convolution Neural Network.
Okay.
بداية راح يكون عندي نتحدث عن outline. عندي الانترودكشن, the palm tree in Jordan, the palm tree diseases, the problem, convolutional neural network, research objectives, research methodology, data sets, result, ونهاية في الكونكلوجن. بداية نتحدث عن introduction. The palm tree is considered one of the oldest trees known to human and has been planted since ancient times. And the heavenly religion honored the palm tree and paid great attention to its cultivation. Palm cultivation in Arab societies is of particular importance, not only as a source of food, but because it is linked to the customs, tradition, and social value inherited by many generations, which made palm tree an important place, especially in the Levant. Palm tree produce fruit rich in a mineral and vitamins that are very important to the human body, namely dates. Dates used in many food products such as molasses, juice, vinegar, and yeast, while other parts of the palm can be used in multiple and important industries such as home furniture, clothing, and others. In addition, the palm tree itself is important because it covers the area of land. The palm tree in Jordan. Jordan joined the list of date-producing country in 2017. The date palm is one of the most important agricultural crops in Jordan, as it is part of national and Arab food security. The interest in planting palm trees is due to the great economic feasibility achieved by the crop of these trees compared to the agricultural crops, as Jordan's investments are estimated at more than $500 million in the cultivation. At the end of 2020, the number of fruitful date palm trees in Jordan reached more than 500,000 trees, producing various types of dates, including the Majdul, Birhi, Khadrawi, Khalas, and other varieties. The annual growth rate of date palm cultivation exceeds 8%. The agricultural lands of palm trees estimated at more than 30,000 dunums, and the annual production of dates range between 18 to 25,000 tons annually. The palm tree diseases, we will work on the following diseases according to the common diseases in Jordan: white scale, leaf spot, leaf brown, and brown spot. موجود عندي هنا في التابل بعض من امراض النخيل والتصنيف تبعها، هل هو بكتيري ام فطري ام فسيولوجي حسب الامراض اللي مصنفه في امراض اشجار النخيل، والاعراض الخاصه بكل جزء من اجزاء النخيل سواء كانت تخص الساق ام الورق نفسه. The problem. In an important statistic published by Al Ghadi newspaper in 18 June 2021, palm diseases in Jordan threaten the lives of 500,000 trees in the Jordan Valley, where more than 67 palm trees have been destroyed since the beginning of this year. Given the importance of these trees in the Jordanian agricultural sector and the need to preserve them, it was necessary to conduct this study. In this paper, we will build a detecting system that helps diagnose common palm diseases in Jordan using convolution neural network. This system helps the farmers to recognize strong symptoms that may appear on dead palm trees, especially in the early stage of the diseases. convolution neural network. الconvolution neural network طريقة عمله راح تكون عبارة عن عدة طبقات، بناخذ بكل طبقة الخصائص المميزة في كل الخصائص المميزة في الصورة، ونعمل لها ماكس بولينج أو افريج بولينج، نعمل بولينج لاير، وبنروح على الكونكشن الكونفوليوشن لاير الثاني ستيب باي ستيب لحديت ما نعمل الفولي كونكتد لاير والاوتبوت. هذا هو باختصار مبدأ عمل السي ان ان. Research objectives. The main goal of this paper is to develop detecting BAM disease system using convolution neural network. Our specific objectives are as follows: helping farmers to identify and treat BAM diseases, increasing the productivity of BAM trees by reducing the costing of hiring experts and the cost resulting from human errors during the diagnosis of diseases, enable the system user to gain experience, study the effect of data augmentation on the performance of the model. الميثودولوجي اللي اشتغلنا عليها: review the related work, identify the data BAM diseases and collect data sets, data reprocessing, build the CNN model, training the model, نهاية result والconclusion. A data set, it is a real data set will be used and the data set contains 4,700 GPG image. This data were obtained from various sources such as BAM diseases research centers, and the following figure show some of this image. هون عندي بعض من أشجار النخيل اللي طبعا الأمراض اللي بتخص أوراق النخيل. Result: in our initial experiments, two datasets were obtained from Kaggle. The two datasets were merged to have a bigger dataset. جمعنا عدد من الداتاسيت كمان من مواقع كاجل الموجود أمامنا بحيث إنه نعمل تكبير للداتا سيت. The initial result show the accuracy of the proposed model is above 80%. To improve the result, we need to have larger data set by either obtain larger data set or increasing the size of the data set using data augmentation. On the other hand, we need to investigate the different hyperparameter of the CNN model. However, more experimental results are needed to improve the performance of the model and to make sure that our model is well generalized by meaning the hyperparameter of our model. الكونكلوجن نهاية: أشجار النخيل عندي تعتبر من أهم أشجار الموجودة في الشرق الأوسط سواء من حيث الفوائد، سواء كانت فوائد روحية أو سواء فوائد مغذية. بورقتنا اللي أمامنا اقترحنا طريقة الكشف عن الإصابات المبكرة لأشجار النخيل من خلال ال CNN الكونفوليوشنال نيورال نتورك للكشف عن الأمراض بوقت مبكر، وأظهرت النتائج الأولية أن الدقة وصلت عندي لغاية 80%. ويجب علينا إجراء المزيد من التجارب على عدد أكبر من البيانات للتأكد من أن النموذج يعمل بشكل فعال. و thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, for your work. It was interesting work. And I have two small questions before we pass to the second presentation. Are you ready? Are you ready for the questions? You hear me, huh?
اتفضل دكتور.
تفضل. طيب. Can you explain for me more what is the contribution of your work? شو الcontribution من الشغل تاعك؟
احنا دكتور بدنا نحاول نخفف من التكاليف تبعت الاشجار الزراعيه، يعني احنا طلعت الطبيب مثلا في المنطقه اللي حوالينا لما بده يطلع يكشف على امراض النخيل بده تقريبا 5 ايام لاسبوع حتى يطلع يكشف بناء على الدور، بناء بالاضافه للكوست العالي على المزارع. اشجار النخيل معروف ان الاشجار الغاليه جدا، احنا هون بنخفف
طيب
التكاليف تبعتها. نعم تفضل.
سؤال. طب في حال اذا انا عملت ديتكشن للديسيز للبالم، طب بعدين انت we need the opinion of the doctor of the medicine. هو الاساس الحكي. الدكتور هو الدكتور الزراعي.
اكيد احنا ما
طبعاً.
عندنا استغناء عن الدكتور، احنا
نعم.
مبدئيا راح
ما
نكتشف
في استغناء
الأمراض
عن الدكتور طبعا.
اكيد طبعا احنا مبدئيا راح نكتشف الامراض الموجوده في الاشجار النخيل.
نعم.
عندي انا الدراسات المستقبليه راح اشتغل عليها ان شاء الله. بدي احاول اعطي طريقه العلاج المناسبه لاشجار النخيل.
بدك تعمل عفوا ما سمعتك.
بدنا بالتعاون مع اطباء الزراعيين بدنا نحاول نعطي طريقه مناسبه للعلاج بدون الرجوع للطبيب.
بدون الرجوع للطبيب.
نعم، بناء برضه على داتا سيت راح تكون موجوده قاعد بنجمعها بحيث انه نشتغل عليها بشغل مستقبلي.
طيب لو سمحت بس اللي انا شفته انه انت عرضت دغري قلت لي عندنا ريزلتس 80% بس ما شفت كيف عرضت بيزد انه هو الريزلتس تاعتك 80% كيف عملت؟ عملت ديتكشن كيف؟ ما حكيتني عن التريننج. You didn't talk about the training of your data set, your test. How did you test your results? ما حكيتني عن المواضيع هذه. دغري قلت لي دايركتلي قلت لي عندي 80% ديتكشن. قديش انت عم تقول عندك 4700 images وبعدين قلت لي عملت you added new data set from the public مش هيك from كاجل.
نعم.
طيب اول شيء كان لازم انا بس طبعا بعطيك نصائح اكيد اللي تكمل شغلك.
تمام ما عندي مشكله.
لما تعرض الريزلتس تاعك اعرض الريزلت اول شيء ال 80% لاي ايمجز لكل الداتا سيت مع بعضها.
ال 4700 جي بي جي ايمج
يعني للريل داتا بلس ذا داتا فروم ذا كاجل.
لا الريال داتا 4700 داتا صوره.
اوكي 80% ريزلت لمين عائده؟
ال 80% الريزلت عائده للداتا الحقيقيه.
طب هذا ما وضحته بالبرزنتيشن. بلس كيف طلعت 80%؟ عملت يعني 4700 صوره كيف مقسمه؟ كلها امراض هذه ولا فيها
تقسمت تقريبا لاربع امراض.
شفت كيف؟ ليك اسمع عفوا مين انت؟ معاذ معي؟
معاذ نعم.
معاذ listen to me. لما نحن عادة in general when we classify or we detect disease any kind of disease إن كان بالم ولا إن كان بالسكن أو أمراض اللي بدك إياه أنت you classify عم تعمل classification right. أنت لما بتعمل classification عندك الداتا سيت تاعتك. الداتا سيت اللي هي مؤلفة من 4700 images هال 4700 صورة لازم تعمل description للداتا سيت تاعتك. يعني ال 4700 صورة هي مؤلفة من شو؟ مؤلفة من 4 أمراض كلهم 4 أمراض. كل مرض كم صورة ولازم يكون في عندك كمان صور. ما عندك صور إنه من دون أمراض. هذه 1. 2 ضروري جدا تقول لما أنت عم تعمل عملية كلاسيفيكيشن 80% بدك تقول قديش عملت تريننج وقديش عملت تيست. وعملية عرض الريزلتس لازم تكون بطريقة ثانية. لازم تعرض بطريقة مثلا confusion matrix او لازم تعمل طريقة ثانية. وهل عملت كروس فاليديشن كمان؟ هل عملت عملية خلط للصور؟ يعني الصورة اللي عملت لها تريننج بعدين عملت لها تيست ولا ما عملت هالامور هذه؟
والله اجين دكتور بس عيد السؤال.
عملت كروس فاليديشن ولا ما عملت كروس فاليديشن؟
لا عملنا دكتور.
طيب المقصد كان معاذ انت لازم ال 80% تشرح لنا كيف اجت. يعني انت بيز اون وات ال 80%. انت اوكي استعملت السي ان اعطيتها الصوره وقلت لي 80% بس كيف؟ شو اعطيت؟ قديش عملت تريننج وقديش عملت تيست؟ والداتا سيت اللي استعملتها من التاجل وين الريزلتس تاعها؟
دكتور 20% تريننج.
طيب على كل نحن we have to respect the time. Again thank you for your presentation. It was really interested and good luck you in your future. Okay, thank you إلك. Now شكرا. Now we pass to the second presentation. with the paper titled Management of COVID-19 Impact with Artificial Intelligent Humanoids. The presenter is with us. Is present? Okay. Management of COVID-19 Impact with Artificial Intelligent Humanoids.
Doctor, it is utilization of robotics during the COVID-19 pandemic.
سيشن 3 دكتور احنا.
This is session 3 with
Wait,
Nada.
Wait. Yes, session 3. Session 3, yes. Session 3.
Utilization.
لا مش utilization. The second paper, session 3, second paper, management of COVID-19 impact with artificial intelligent humanoids.
موجود البرزنتر.
No, this doesn't exist in the list. The title you are saying doesn't exist in the list.
Okay, doesn't exist.
Yes, doctor, just 1 second. We are the presenter, but the title has not been changed with you. And the new one is changed.
Yes, like
Okay.
it was utilization
in the program
of the robotics during COVID-19 pandemic.
In the program of the conference, the title of the paper is the management of COVID-19 impact with artificial intelligence. Okay, if you change your title, what is your title paper?
It's utilization of robotics during COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay. Yes, you can start your presentation.
Yeah, I will start sharing the screen.
Okay, share your screen. Wait. Utilization of robotics. Wait. Okay.
Yeah, that was a review paper. Like, my name is Nada Masood Mirza. I work in UAE University in Alan, UAEU. So in our paper, basically we discussed the abstract, the introduction, and how the humanoids or the robotic machines, they were helpful during the whole phase of pandemic of this. Almost like now it's been 2 years we are inside. So there were like medical robots, there were clinical cleaning robots, educational robots, and social care robots. I kept the details very short for the sake of the number of pages we had. So in abstract, we discussed the emerging role of the robotics during COVID-19 and how they were being utilized as an intelligent device. But still, there are few factors which were kept in mind, and there is still a very much advancement is required to rise the production and the availability of such kind of robots to the nations which are still underdeveloped, or there is an economic issue and everything. In the introduction part, we basically covered how the COVID-19 was emerged from one country and how it was being transferred throughout the world within the number of weeks, not like the months or something. It took a number of weeks to bring us down in the houses, and how the lives was affected, like we were in the lockdowns. And during those lockdowns, how those intelligent devices were there to help us. Like, they were there to replace the human beings, to clean the stuff, and to make sure that everyone was there. Like in the medical field, we had vital checking robots were introduced where doctors were not available for the shortage of staff. Medication delivery system was being done by the robot so that a human being doesn't have to go in the infected room, so it will not bring out the infection. Then the surgical robots were introduced for the sake they can manipulate, they can do the same action as a human being, and they were controlled by human being but outside the room. Due to the usage of all these devices, there was a reduction of a PPE uses, and there was a reduction of like the medical wastage also. Then there were few cleaning robots, which were, one of them was being introduced by NTU Singapore, that was being there to clean the surfaces and to enhance the sanitization process. In the beginning of this COVID pandemic, everyone was scared. There was no treatment. No one knew that what is in front of them. So in that scenario, these robots were there to clean the massive services and to clean the massive parts. Like if they are transferring some material from one place to another place, the storerooms and these kinds of places were being disinfected by the robots. Even now, the UVC disinfection is being done in many airplanes, so that when they are transferring passengers from one country to another country, they are still disinfecting using these kinds of robots. Then there were few educational robots because luckily and unluckily our kids were being moved to online education system, which was not very good and which was not very effective. Like a teacher can introduce something, but till the time they don't see something from their eyes, they were unable to understand. So there were few robots, like two of them I discussed in my paper. One was Qbot and Leo. They were like a kind of a personal assistive robot. And there was an introduction of the simulators a lot of times. Like the simulators were there just to make sure the kids are understanding or able to understand the concept of education and any kind of concept which they were being introduced to. Social life, that was the most affected part in the COVID-19, where everyone was being restricted into the four walls of their home and they were feeling as if a day is like an year. So in that condition where people were unable to meet each other, in the old homes or these places, HRI was introduced just to bring the psychological cases down or just to bring the psychological disorders down. So there will be less panic or less anxiety attacks in human beings. These things were done by the safe robots, like they were being tested with the obstacle avoidance and everything. Like this is an overall summary of the pandemic, how the robots and the AI were introduced. Like for initial assessment of any kind of features, we had the robot nurse and the doctors. Surface sanitization was being done by the UV cleaning robots, the patient transportation. These were the self-driving robots with navigation. In navigation details, it was being mentioned in the paper also that they were being saved or they were being tried or tested so many times that they will avoid or they will stop the obstacles. Then there was a drone delivery being used to deliver the food. There were service robots in the pharmacies. There were cleaning robots to do the housekeeping or to clean up the infected place in the good manner. Then the lab testing was started to be done by the medical robots and telemedication. Social robots were there. Disease management, like in the beginning, 5-6 months, nobody was willing to bury the dead bodies. Reason being they were scared that they'd go and touch the infected patient, they might get infected, and so on. So even in that stages, some countries, they started to use the lifter robots and the self-navigated robots. Overall conclusion of this paper is that we still have like a time to make sure that these kind of devices, they are improved in like much better manner, and after that they will be introduced into the nations which are not economically strong or where that pandemic hit really bad. So inclusion of the robots and AI into aid human life, how it was all available there to help human beings in this time of pandemic, improve domestic and professional department, that they actually helped to improve everything in like some manners, that enhanced management of pandemic where robots and AI were introduced. And still, again, my point that we still need to do much more effort to make sure that they become more safe and they are available to everyone. These were my references which were being used. Any question and answers if someone wants to ask.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I have only one question. Can you tell me what is the contribution of your work? What you did?
It was a review paper.
Please one.
Yeah.
Nada, yes, Nada. You did what? You did a survey about the different robots.
Yes.
Yeah, you did a survey about the different robots used in the pandemic, right? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Nada. Thank you for your work. Okay. Now we pass to the third presentation, third paper, Sentiment Associated Terms Detector with Network Analysis of Philippine COVID-19 Online News Articles. The presenter is ready.
Sir, it's 191 machine learning based prediction tool of hospitalization cost, I think.
No, wait. Before the machine learning based prediction tool of hospitalization, we have the third paper, Sentiment Associated Terms Detector with Network Analysis of Philippine COVID-19 Online News Articles.
Doctor, this is not in the list. Apparently, you have a different list than ours. So the third one is 191, which is a machine learning based prediction tools of hospitalization cost.
Wallah, Doctor, and I have the program of your conference.
Wallah, we have the program of the conference as well. Yani. This is the list that we have. And apparently everyone else in the audience have the same list as I have it, not as you have it.
And I have program final version. Okay, على كل no problem. ما في مشكلة. Okay. We go to the machine learning based prediction tool of hospitalization cost. Okay.
So I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. So hello everyone, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Balqis Abdelmoula. I'm a medical doctor from the Faculty of Medicine of Sfax from Tunisia. And I'm pleased today to present to you my master work about machine learning based prediction tool of hospitalization. So as you know, the increase of the cost of healthcare services is a worldwide challenge. It has thus become essential to adopt better strategies to optimize expenses and improve hospital management, especially during emergency situations such as the ongoing pandemic. Our need for the evaluation and control of the cost of hospitalization by tools of good governance of material and financial resources makes it important to understand the nature and weight of the factors that influence hospitalization cost and foresee its future changes using supervised machine learning models. The aim of our study was to build a model that can both explain and predict the cost of hospitalization upon admission of the patient in a Tunisian hospital. This study was carried out on data extracted from digital medical records of patients hospitalized in the infectious diseases department at the University Hospital of Sfax in Tunisia, and the anonymity of patients for each hospitalization was respected. The methodology of our study contained 4 steps. First, the data collection, including the data extraction and then the data processing. Second, the data analysis, including the univariate and bivariate analysis. Then the modeling, containing the selection of variables, the machine training and testing, and last, the evaluation containing both the root mean square error and the cross-validation method. Regarding the first step, data was first extracted from the following digital medical records. So in the screen, you can see how the digital medical record looks like in reality. It's in French. The second step, we prepared the data set and all variables were analyzed graphically and numerically using different Python libraries, including pandas, stats models, matplotlib, seaborn, scikit-learn, etc. We studied the correlations between explanatory variables, which made it possible to detect collinearity. We also used subgroups of independent variables with different semantic meanings to verify the most influential information that could explain the hospitalization cost and therefore predict it. When it comes to modeling, we used 80% of the dataset for training and 20% for testing. For the methods of variable selection, we used the filtering method, the wrapper method, and the integrated method. And we tested 3 regression models, including the multiple linear regression, the random forest regression, and the support vector regression. And regarding the last part, which is the evaluation, we use the root mean square error, which is the standard deviation of the residuals or prediction errors. And we used also the cross-validation method, like you see, which is based on several validation samples or test sets from the same database, like the following figure. Regarding the results of our study, the primary collected datasets contained 542 hospitalization, which represented 54.5% of the hospitalization of the hospital, of the whole university hospitals. And we contained 136 variables, including 36 quantitatives and 100 binary. And after processing missing data and eliminating outliers and then analyzing collinearity, we ended up with 238 hospitalizations and 110 variables, including 12 quantitative variables and 98 binary variables. Regarding the data analysis, we used the box plot to analyze the outliers regarding the 14 quantitative variables. 3 did not have outliers, and the 11 remaining ones had outliers, like the hemoglobin level, like you see in the second figure. After identifying the outliers, they were eliminated and replaced by the mean. The choice to eliminate the outliers of the quantitative explanatory variables while keeping the observation in which outliers are detected made it possible to conserve the size of the database without losing information useful for the creation of the prediction model. Regarding the modeling, the comparison of the evaluation measure or RMSE while fixing a regression model and each time applying a different method of variable selection showed that with the multiple linear regression and support vector regression, the filtering method was the one that gave the best prediction results. And with the random forest regression, the best prediction result was obtained without applying either the filtering method or the wrapper method for selecting variables. And by comparing the predictive quality assessment measure of the different regression models, the most accurate model with the lowest RMSE were the 15th degree multiple linear regression after using the filtering method for selecting variables, and the random forest regression without applying any methods for selecting variables, as it has a built-in method for that, but its precision remained lower than that of the first model. Thus, we chose the 15th degree multiple linear regression model coupled with the filtering method for the selection of variables to predict the cost of hospitalization. The predicted values were compared to the actual observed values, as you can see in the following figure. The explanatory variables selected were all binary, including 5 related to the patient characteristics and 10 linked to the hospitalization, including the reasons and season of hospitalization. Using 4 subgroups of explanatory variables with different semantic meanings, we created different models to be able to identify the type of information most useful for the prediction. So the RMSE of the random forest regression obtained with the hospitalization characteristics subgroup was close to the RMSE of the multiple linear regression model created after selecting the 15 most relevant variables by the filtering method. As you can see, the multiple linear regression model used previously is very close to this one using the hospitalization characteristics. Indeed, the reason for the hospitalization or the suspected diagnosis often determines the length of the hospitalization as well as the necessary procedures and therefore the cost of hospitalization. The last step, which is the evaluation, showed that the 15th degree multiple linear regression was stable when coupled with the filtering method using the cross validation method. As you can see in this table, the different iteration, the RMSE or evaluation measure for the different 5 iterations were very close to each other, proving the stability of the model, and which we chose then as the best one to predict the hospital cost. Here we can see that there's absence of overlearning or overfitting in the created model. To conclude, this study tested different supervised machine learning regression algorithms on a large dataset extracted from digital medical records of patients hospitalized in the infectious diseases department at the University Hospital of Sfax, Tunisia. The most precise of the different tested prediction models was that of 15th degree multiple linear regression, containing as regressors the season or the period of hospitalization, the reason or motive for hospitalization, as well as characteristics linked to the patient, such as the gender, the history of diabetes, the history of dialysis, recent trip, pregnancy, etc. Despite the good prediction performance of the created models, our study had limitations, including the missing data, which could be a potential source of bias, the manual extraction of data from the digital health records, and the application of supervised machine learning on less than 20% of the infectious diseases department hospitalization in a year without including data from the rest of the hospital. Technical improvements remain to be made in order to optimize the quality of this tool, and other algorithms could be further tested to broaden the study. The generalization of the implementation and use of well-developed digital medical records throughout all hospitals would allow the production of more complete databases from which better prediction models could be generated. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Really, it was a great, very well structured presentation. It was interesting. Thank you for you.
Thank you.
In fact, I have one question. You used in your work, you predict the hospitalization cost, no? Right?
Yeah, we had
Yes.
the hospitalization cost as a result already, and we trained the
Why you want to predict or the hospitalization cost? Why you have in the future you have to reduce the hospitalization cost? You have to do something for this, what or what?
Exactly. So as we talked in the introduction, the expenses in healthcare services and the management of the hospital resources is a challenge, and with the current pandemic, it has become even more challenging. So for a better management for the hospitalizations, we wanted to know what really made the burden on the expenses, what really determined how it will be high or low. And with the regressors that we found, we can predict when it will be like to detect the patients that will be high expenses, that will burden the hospital expenses. So when we know those patients from the time they are admitted, before we go further in the expenses, we can make more attention to the expenses and then reduce them. And it's also a tool that can help reduce the corruption at some point. So sometimes there's expenses that are made not in their place. So or some healthcare professionals that prescribe medication or use certain tools not when indicated. So when we have the exact need predicted from before using them, we can make strategies or budgets in advance so that we reduce those possible corruption or behaviors.
Okay, thank you for your presentation and for your work.
Thank you.
Now we pass to the other presentation. I wish that it will be the right title. Intrusion detection system based machine learning methods, a comprehensive survey for security and deep learning applications, right?
Yes, Prof, this is the paper, but we don't know if the presenter is in the session or not.
The presenter is here. Intrusion detection system based machine learning methods, a comprehensive survey for security and deep learning application, I think is absent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also the recording is not available because he didn't send it to us.
Okay. So it's absent. Okay. So we pass now to the top COVID-19 100 vaccine papers and altmetric study.
51 paper, 51 with Dr. Ahmed Shahat.
Yes, that's my paper.
Okay, doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for giving me the opportunity to present my paper. My paper titled Top COVID-19 100 Vaccine Papers and Altimetric Study. The paper is authored by Ahmed Shahata, Khalid Dakar, and Nahid Salim. As you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic might be the most discussed topic in the last 2 years because it has changed our lives. We can say that thousands of papers have been published about the virus. Many of these papers results have been shared in social media outlets and the internet. To explore the impact of the scholarly papers on social networks and the research in general, studies were carried out using altimetrics to find how social networks contributed to the spread of the virus research. The thing is, the traditional citation index such as Scopus Web of Science might not be enough to learn about the importance of the published research, while altimetrics provide us with tools that help us to predict the performance of these papers based on the attention to these papers on social media and other outlets. Basically, altimetrics focus on things such as the number of downloads, mentions, likes, retweets, which give us an overview of how people interact with research. Our research objectives are: the paper tried to analyze the top 100 vaccine papers published since the emergence of the COVID pandemic. The paper explored the correlation between altimetrics score and the number of citation of vaccine papers. The paper also presents the characteristics of engagement with these papers on different social outlets, such as Facebook, Mendeley, Twitter. The paper explores altimetrics indicator and their usage to predict the future impact of the vaccine papers. In order to conduct our study, we used descriptive analytical study, and we used altimetric analysis to answer our research questions. We collected data from Web of Science about the vaccine publication. The data retrieved consisted of papers, citations, and of these papers and altimetric data, such as mentions and like. Researchers carried the research in two phases. The first one focused on retrieving papers related to COVID-19. The researchers used an advanced search option in Web of Science to retrieve all COVID-19 vaccine papers in the past 2 years. We used several terms that related to the virus and the vaccines in order to be able to collect the data. We retrieved more than 4,000 publications in our, we achieved more than 4,000 publications. The results were limited to research articles in English language. We also removed reports, editorials, books review, and so on. The articles before 2020 were excluded. The article number in May were around 1,600. The top 100 top cited COVID-19 papers. Studies were identified by the number of citations. The second phase, we tried to measure the paper's presence on social media, such as Twitter. The researchers chose altimetric.com as a tool to obtain social media counts. We selected altimetric.com because it's the most comprehensive altimetric tool on the internet. Papers.ai was used to collect data about the paper citation, altimetric attention score in altimetric.com, and altimetric.com provides us with a complete record of every paper. In the data analysis section, you will be able to see in table number 1 the top 100 papers that were published in 35 journals. You can see that from the table that the journal with the highest number of articles authored about the vaccine was New England Journal of Medicine. They published around 9 papers at that time, followed by the Lancet Journal, which published 8 journals, Nature, which published 7 papers, and Cell Journal, which published 7 papers also. And in the last place, MMWR, which published 6 papers. In table number 2, we break down social media based on altimetric contribution in the altimetric score. Twitter was found to be the influential social media on the altimetric score, which might be because millions of users are using Twitter to share research data. The table also here outlines the characteristics of the top 10 papers that received the highest citation score. You will find that the first paper was published in New England Journal of Medicine in 2020. The paper scored more than 400 in Web of Science, 600 in Scopus, and the variance of the result is because Scopus has more coverage than Web of Science. In table number 4, you can see the presence of COVID-19 vaccine papers at altimetric per year. The results showed that in 2020, the number of published papers about the vaccine was with a high altimetric score was only 87. The total altimetrics attention score for these papers was more than 156,000. On the other hand, only 13 papers were published in 2021, had high altimetric attention score, which had around 80,000 altimetric attention score. As you can see in table number 5, we calculated the spermal correlation between Web of Science and altimetrics for all papers about the vaccine. The test result revealed a positive and moderate correlation between Web of Science citation and altimetrics in social networks outlets. This means altimetrics might be used for as a future indicator for research papers' performance in the topic. In the discussion, to our best of knowledge, this is the first study to report on altimetric results about the vaccine papers, also during the last 2 years. We decided to limit our research to top 100 papers on the topic to examine the performance of these papers on social networks. The study findings indicated that the top 2 journals in the number of publications on the topic had achieved the highest citation and altimetric attention score. All of these papers except one had altimetric attention score, and the highest was around 19,000, and the lowest was around 0. Significant correlation between citations and altimetric indicators was found, which would help the researchers to predict papers' performance in the future. Papers did receive much attention from scholarly community and public on social media, as the topic is one of the hot topics in this period. Our findings indicate that Twitter and Mendeley contributed the most in the final altimetric attention score. In almost all journals included in the study, this means that the researchers preferred the 2 networks over other social networks when it comes to sharing research data. Overall, we can say that the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, followed by the number of vaccines developed to protect people from dangerous effects of the virus, has motivated researchers to publish many studies on the topic. Thus, this momentum of research papers had led to more attention from the scholars and public toward vaccine research. Social networks were among the best outlets to discuss these papers and share scholarly results regarding the vaccine with others. The findings has confirmed that despite these papers were published recently in 2020 and 2021, they have gained many citations and attention on social networks. Social networks have contributed to taking the scholarly papers out of journals and presenting their results to the public in social media. Social networks also have made research more visible and accessible to the public, increasing the advance of research in many areas. The results illustrate the importance of integrating social networks in disseminating research and contributing to the increase in altimetric attention score, which would later reflect on the citation count. Thank you for giving me the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for your presentation and for your work. Also, your presentation, it was structured and well developed. But I have a question, Ahmed, please. What is the contribution of your work? You did a survey or a study only to detect, for example, only to find the best 100 papers concerning the vaccines in 2021, or to prove that these types of papers, for example, because related to pandemic or COVID-19 has high citation. Can you please only explain for us what is the relation to detect the best paper of vaccines, for example, please?
Yes. What we did is bibliometric analysis. Bibliometric analysis is depending on citation counts, and altimetric analysis is depending on the number of mentions, like, and so on. We did that to be able to predict the paper performance. So if we know that paper is performed well in social media, for example, we will know later that this paper is very important paper that worth reading and worth following our results produced by this paper. So it's a way to know what is good and what's bad, what should be followed, and what shouldn't be read. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you very much.
contributing. Thank you. Now we pass to the not last one, before the last one, comparing traditional machine learning methods for COVID-19 fake news detection. Right? The presenter is ready.
Yes, I'm here, but I prefer to use the pre-record that I have sent before, because I don't have the video now or any of the presentation.
Okay, can you share your video? Can you share your video?
I don't have it now. It's not with me now. So if you, yes, it's, yes.
Okay, we will ask.
I'm sharing now. I'm sharing the video now.
Yeah, thank
you.
you.
Thank
This one.
Thank
Yes,
you. Thanks
thank
to
you.
share us the video. Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
and I will be here to answer any question before the presentation.
Okay.
I can't hear. I think there is a problem with the voice.
Yes, please. We cannot hear the presentation. No sound, huh?
The introduction. Second,
yes, please. Can you repeat it? Can you repeat it, please?
And result, and the.
Okay. Great.
Hello, my name is Dr. Satam Al-Matarne. I'm assistant professor in the Department of Data Science and Artificial Intelligence at Zarqa University in Jordan. First, I would like to welcome all attendees and to present to you our article in behalf of my colleagues, our work which entitled in comparing traditional machine learning methods to detect, or comparing traditional machine learning method for COVID-19 fake news. The order of this presentation will be according to the outline. The first section will be introduction, second method, experiments and result, and the last one, our last section is conclusion. In order to introduction, to talk about in general fake news or COVID-19, have to know that in the widespread use of social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and other social media, force people to rely on them as the main source of information. But unfortunately, an abnormal amount of fake news and disinformation have overflowed social media, with the aim of drawing the attention of the social media users to shape their opinion and judgment. Fake news and all kinds of disinformation can have a dramatic effect on countries, business, and people on various levels, whether political or economical. Nowadays, the whole world is facing a critical situation of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the amount of the fake news about COVID-19 has swarmed social media, which led to the spread of fear and panic among people all over the world. This only happened because people are misinformed due to fake news related to COVID-19. Vacancies and the spread of infection. Additionally, the World Health Organization shed light on addressing the spread of misleading information about COVID-19 and infection, especially after the announcement of the British government about the new mutation of COVID-19 that was discovered at the end of the year. The use of natural language, the processing natural language technique, which machine learning and deep learning method for the detecting of few fake news can help to stop or at least reduce the misinformation about COVID-19 and its cures. The use of traditional machine learning technique for the detection or detecting fake news has received much attention recently. In this article, we follow the method, our method to build this article as corresponding classifier using the same training data in supervised strategies. The characteristic of label post are encoded as feature in vector presentation. This vector and the corresponding label feed the classifier. And the linguistics feature are the most important and influential factor in increasing the efficiency of classifier for any task. We include linguistics feature for fake news, and the linguistics feature that we are used in and analyzed in this is Ngram, and we because Unigram is valuable to detect specific domain dependent expression, we assign a weight to all terms by using term frequency, inverse decrement frequency representation. And we use two data set. The first one, constraint, it's a shared task in 2020. It was the first task in this shared task was about detect fake news about COVID-19. And this data set consists of three partitions. The first one, training, and the second one, validation, and the test. As you know, in this table, the training consists of real and fake news, 3,360, 3,060 for fake, in total of 6,420 in total for training. And the validation, 2,140, 1,120 for real world news, and 1,020 for the fake. And the same thing for test. The second one is COVID-19 FNR data set. It is a data set also related to COVID-19. This data set also to detect the COVID-19 or help the task of detecting or detect the COVID-19 or fake news for COVID-19. And it consists of fake news or documents with the fake and real news from United States of America, Europe, and India, from Twitter and other social media. In total, it was 3,795 fake news and in the same number, 3,793 true news also. And the last, the other thing for experiment was system configuration. Since we are dealing with the text classification problem, so any existing supervised learning method can be applied. We use the Python library scikit-learn. It's an open source Python library, and we choose from this library support vector machine, light-based decision tree, nearest sniper, and random forest to compare it for this task. As our classifier for all experiments, so we use the default parameters in order to provide a comprehensive comparison between a classifier. As I said, we adopt the default value for all classifier and all experiment. And the fourth part of this article was about the result. As you can see, for two data sets, the result was for precision and recall F1, the best performance was in support vector machine, and then naive-Bayes for both the first and second data set. In conclusion, in this paper, several classification algorithms have been compared for the fake news detection task on social media post information about COVID-19. We compared traditional machine learning methods. Experiments were performed without considering external source. In machine learning performance very well in detecting fake news about COVID-19. In future work, we will try to analyze the results obtained to establish what factor determine the significant difference between the neural and traditional approach with the data set evaluated. We will also look for the source of information providing reliable COVID-19 claims to improve the result, or the also maybe we can focus in ending words or any other deep learning for natural language processing. Thank you for your attention, and I'm ready to any answer for you, to answer your question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work. I have only one question. You mentioned in your presentation that the characteristic of labeled posts are encoded as features. Can you explain more, or can more for us what how these labeled are encoded?
We, as I mentioned in the presentation, as you we used two public data sets. The first one, it was a shared task.
What is the nature? What is the nature of this data set?
Yes, the nature of data set, it's one text, a text that contain fake news and the true news about fake news about COVID-19, sorry, and the Y, or the label, is 0 and 1. It's a binary classification, so fake or not. So this is the presentation and in the article, n-gram, and we weight it as a term frequency and inverse decrement frequency. That's why we call this paper, we call it a traditional machine learning, because just in this article we will try to know or compare the performance of the traditional machine learning, like support vector machine, naive-Bayes, random forest, nearest sniper, with the term frequency, inverse decrement frequency, unigram, pigram, and to check if it's good to predict if the news is fake or true about COVID-19, using I think it's a small data set, but as you know, the pandemic, it's only the age of the pandemic is 2 years only. So this is the available data set that we found. So the result, or the conclusion, or the result that we found from this comparing the study, it's good. To the traditional machine learning give a good performance, especially support vector machine and naive-Bayes, when we feed it only with the bag of words or the term frequency, inverse decrement frequency with n-gram, to classify these such tasks here. So this is the contribution. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. Now we pass to the last presentation for this session, redefining knowledge management in the era of COVID-19, a concept analysis approach in the context of higher education. I think it will be by Dr. Ahmed Ghandour from Al Ain University. Dr. Ahmad, you are ready? Are you
Yes.
ready? Okay.
Yes, I am ready. Thanks very much.
Okay.
If I may record this session, I can record it, but apparently you have to give me a permission to record this session.
In fact, Dr. Ahmad, all the session is recorded. Don't worry about this. I think the
Okay. No
Yes,
worries.
it is all recorded.
Yes,
It
yes.
is on YouTube.
I think the
Yeah.
technical department record all the sessions. Don't worry about it.
All right. Okay. Thanks very much. And the other thing is, if the IT can just be ready as a backup to play my recording, just in case that my internet is disconnected.
We are ready.
Internet, although I have
ready,
internet,
Dr.
but I don't trust it.
Okay.
Okay, so معكم دكتور أحمد غندور من جامعة العين في أبو ظبي. So greeting from Abu Dhabi. In the coming few minutes, I will be taking you through an interesting research of redefining knowledge management in the era of COVID-19 in the context of higher education.
Dr. Ahmad, I had the chance to visit your university.
Oh, that's good. When was that?
Al-Ain University in Asset. It was in Asset 2019, I think.
It was, yes. Yeah, and hopefully that we will host Asset next year.
Inshallah. Yalla, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Now, first, let me share with you what has actually motivated this research. I was teaching knowledge management among other courses when the pandemic forces the lockdown, where we had to move to the online teaching. Now, during my teaching, knowledge management course teaching, I usually take the education as a practical example to clarify the different concepts in knowledge management. Now, the change of delivery mode has prompted me to actually seek a new definition of the knowledge management that matches the new delivery mode. So it is a knowledge management in a COVID-19 related research. It's nothing to do with artificial intelligence. So I'm not sure whether I am in the right session or the right audience are listening to me. But it is interesting that we are talking about something that we do currently. So, and I will be talking to you along those headings. Now, as you know, COVID-19 has impacted every aspect of our life and created new normal for many industries. But the silver lining of COVID-19 was mainly digital. Now, in education, business as usual was soon declared in higher education institutions by implementing distance learning immediately after the outbreak of the pandemic. Higher education institutions had to reinvent their learning environment so that digitalization expands and replaces the student-teacher relationships. Consequently, the practices of knowledge management have intensely evolved as an inevitable challenge to higher education institutes. Now, this has led to an increasing need for KM and thus put it under scrutiny to obtain the best results. Now, conclusively, higher education institutions were expected to establish essential knowledge management traditions in response to the pandemic. However, now successful knowledge management requires definition as a first step. And I have used the concept analysis to define the concepts. So let me explain to you what concept analysis technique is and how it works. Now, due to the fact that knowledge is a complex and abstract term, there are different ongoing debates, not only on the definition of knowledge, but also on its management. Therefore, knowledge management is one of the concepts that needs to be attended in terms of definition. So concept analysis is a technique that used in social sciences for defining and describing social terms. In this technique, consensus on 3 elements or dimensions, we need to have consensus on. These 3 dimensions are attributes, examples, and non-examples. So we have to list a number of attributes around the concepts and examples on the concepts and non-example on the concepts. Just to clarify, examples and non-examples are related to the concepts rather than to the attributes. So we could have different number of attributes, so they don't have to be the same sort of set of numbers for these. Now, this approach is a social science, as I mentioned, that is used in multifaceted domain like knowledge management. This technique helps in getting definition and descriptive phrases for immensely complex terms. And knowledge management can go as complex as any other multidisciplinary domain. By applying concept analysis, any organization can draw upon the definition of knowledge management and creating employee minds the clear and comprehensive understanding of knowledge management and making them to embed the concept in the organizational culture. Further, the concept can be clarified using the example and non-examples. Now, as for the education, in the era of pandemic, knowledge management can be defined by filling out these 3 boxes or these 3 templates, or the number of attributes. You can list number of attributes in the context of higher education related to the pandemic. Now, such a task is actually not trivial, it's crucial. And a list of 5 attributes were generated. A similar numbers of examples and non-examples were also crafted, as you can see in the table. All possible attributes that cover the characteristics of knowledge management were drawn from the literature. Now, the source of these can come from different sources, such as focus group, experts, interviews, but I got them from the literature. In line with all the attributes shown in the table, here we can define knowledge management as a systemic approach to enable the wheel of information and learning to flow, to be shared, by which it will grow and create a value. Further, it connects people to people and people to content. So in conclusion, the attempt was made to frame, and I'm reading the slide now, attempt was made to frame the definition that covers all the key functions involved in knowledge management in the educational sector in the era of COVID-19 in a simple manner. The concept analysis technique used in the process to bring the best results. During the research process, the following were noticed. KM definition requires a context in order to be meaningful. Definitions are drawn based on a sector or organization of its usage. Now, moving to a distance learning requires knowledge management attention in order to be successful. Of course, further studies can pursue this to link knowledge management and distance learning more explicitly. A study also can be replicated in other sectors, such as retailing, where they had to move to the online shopping. In fact, I am presenting another paper tomorrow around online shopping in Abu Dhabi. So thanks very much. That's it. If you do have any question or any feedback, I will be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmad, for your presentation and for your work. Really, it was interested, and I think, at my opinion, your work will open new gates in redefining the KM, the knowledge management era in pandemic. And I think you will. I hope you will present more details about your work in other papers and in other research, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you for presentation. I think we finished now our session. No more papers. Thanks for you, for all attendees. Thanks for all authors. And hope I wish you a good luck in your future, in your work and your research, and hope to see you inshallah in ASET 2022, and not on webinar, on Zoom, but we face to face inshallah.